In this second of two lessons, we're still dealing with the same learning target. I can compare and order decimals to the hundredths place. In the lesson we did before this, we really just compared two decimals. And in this lesson, we're going to learn to order decimals, which means put three or more decimals into order, either from least to greatest or greatest to least. And we're only going to be working with three decimals today. I also want to make sure that I say that if something seems confusing in today's lesson, but if you felt like you understood the last lesson, then go back to it and rewatch it. I'll be sending both videos in the same email, so you can always go back and review that last lesson where we just compared two decimals. But the learning target doesn't just say I can compare, it says I can compare in order. So let's focus in on that word order. Order just means when you're given numbers, three or more numbers, to put them in order from least to greatest, the least to greatest value, or from greatest to least. So here we're given three different numbers. We're given 3, 2, and 8, and we're going to put them in order from least to greatest or greatest to least, and greatest to least. So again, when we see that word order, it means put them in order. And if we're going to take 3, 2, and 8 and put them in order from least to greatest, there you have the least number 2, then you have 3, then you have the greatest number 8. Notice that we separate them by commas when we put them in order. So 2, 3, and 8 from least to greatest, we've separated them by commas. And then we're going to put them in order from greatest to least. So there we have 8, 3, 2 from greatest to least. So in our learning target, what are we comparing or putting? So now I think we're at the point where we could just say that 0.2 is the same as 2/10, that 2/10 is the same as 20 hundredths, and that 20 hundredths is the same as 0.20. So if 0.2 equals 2/10, which equals 20 hundredths, which equals 0.20, then 0.2 and 0.20 are the same thing. So I can always express, if I have a decimal with a digit in the tenths place, for example 0.5, I can express that as 0.50 because 5/10 equals 50 hundredths. And in the same way, I can say that 0.60 equals 0.6 because 60 hundredths equals 6/10. 60 hundredths equals 6/10 because I could divide the numerator and denominator of 60 hundredths by 10 tenths, and I would get 6/10. So 60 hundredths equals 6/10. 60 hundredths equals 6/10. So now I want you to try this. I want you to try to put these three decimals in order from least to greatest and to do something that shows me that you understand how you got your answer. So go ahead, pause the video, try that. When you come back, if you don't understand, I'll explain it. So pause the video and just at least try it. So to put those three decimals in order from least to greatest, this is what we'd get. 0.10, 0.29, and 0.4. But why? Because 0.10 is 10 hundredths, 0.29 is 29 hundredths, and 0.4 is 4/10, which is equivalent to 40 hundredths. So if we just look at the fractions, they all have a denominator of 100, 10 hundredths, 29 hundredths, and 40 hundredths. 10 hundredths is the least, 29 hundredths comes next, and 40 hundredths is the greatest. And so the decimal equivalents go in the same order. Let's try the same thing with these three decimals. Let's put them in order from least to greatest. Go ahead and pause the video and try it, and show why you got your answer. You could do it this way. You could write under 0.59 59 hundredths. Another way of saying the decimal 0.59. You could write under 0.6 6 tenths and then express it as a fraction with a denominator of 100, 60 hundredths. And then you could write under 0.25 25 hundredths. And then you can put them in order. So look at the three fractions with denominators of 100, which is the least. The least is 25 hundredths. So going from least to greatest, we'll put 25 hundredths first. 25 hundredths is the least. 25 hundredths will come first. What comes next? What goes in the middle? Well, 59 hundredths is less than 60 hundredths, so 59 hundredths comes next. Then 60 hundredths comes after that. So that's the fractions in order from least to greatest. Now let's express them back as decimals and put them in the right order. So notice I expressed 25 hundredths as 0.25 or 25 hundredths, 59 hundredths as 0.59 or 50 hundredths, and 60 hundredths as 0.6 or 6 tenths, because 6 tenths equals 60 hundredths, because 6 tenths equals 60 hundredths. So we can put 0.6 as the greatest decimal. So when I tell you to, I want you to pause the video and put these three decimals in order. We have 0.7, 0.69, and 0.09. And again, I want you to put them in order from least to greatest. I think your first step should be to write them as fractions. If there's a fraction with a denominator of 10, express it as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So express it as the hundredths. And then put the fractions in order, and then go back and put the equivalent decimals in order. Go ahead, pause the video and try it in order from least to greatest. Go ahead and pause it. So hopefully you recognize that 0.7 is 7 tenths, and then you expressed it as a fraction with a denominator of 100 or 70 hundredths. The same thing, 7 tenths and 70 hundredths and 0.7. Then you saw that 0.69 is 69 hundredths. Don't have to do anything to it. And hopefully you notice that 0.09 has nothing in the tenths place, but a 9 in the hundredths place. So you wrote that as 9 hundredths. Now we can put those fractions in order from least to greatest. Well, what's the least fraction there? They're all broken into 100 equal parts, the same size parts. If we have 70 of those same size parts, 69 of those same size parts, 9 of those same size parts, which is the least? So hopefully you recognize that 9 hundredths was the least, 69 hundredths was in the middle, and 70 hundredths was the greatest. But still, we have to go back and put those original decimals into the same order from least to greatest. So which decimal showed the least 9 hundredths? That's right, 0.09 showed 9 hundredths. Which decimal showed 69 hundredths? That's right, 0.69 showed 69 hundredths. And which decimal showed 70 hundredths? Well, that was 0.7. 7 tenths, which was equivalent to 70 hundredths. So 0.7 showed 70 hundredths. 0.7 showed 70 hundredths. So now we have the fraction equivalents in order from least to greatest, and we've put our original decimals in order from least to greatest. So here's your exit ticket. I'd like you to take these three decimals, 0.45, 0.09, 0.5, express them as fractions. If any of them aren't already expressed as a fraction with a denominator of 100, express it as a fraction with a denominator of 100. Put all the fractions in order from least to greatest, and then go back and put the original decimals in order from least to greatest, and show all of that work just like I did when I was showing you the examples during this lesson. Remember, our learning target was I can compare and order decimals to the hundredths place. We're going to put them in order from least to greatest. We're going to show our work. If we have any questions, we can email our teacher, and they'll be happy to help us with any part of this that we didn't understand. Thank you for paying such close attention. If you need to, rewind the video and watch parts of it or all of it again to see if you understand it the second time, if you thought it was hard the first time. And maybe you already get it because you guys are super smart. So thanks, and I will see you next time.